Hi, everybody. Welcome to Biosophy Online. This is Dr. Eric Biseca, naturopath, alchemists, warrior shaman, and uncle, among other things, bringing you the metaphysical view of natural holistic healing and socioeconomic, sociopolitical phenomena. Today, we're looking at 7 low-key habits for men surviving and thriving in 2026. Here we are, 2026. By the way, welcome, Happy New Year. For those of you who are keeping track, I don't know even if it matters anymore. So much of what we're used to, so many patterns and traditions and constructs that we follow are becoming more and more obsolete. And I would say the year is even one, or just the whole notion of time itself. Definitely a lot happening and a lot changing, and it's good to keep up with it. It's good to talk about it as much as possible and have that conversation, which is the highest form of meditation, right? So we have 7 habits. Of course, this can apply also to women. I wanted to really focus on the men. I will kind of lean towards men and masculinity with some of this stuff, but a lot of this, of course, can be applied across the board. And anyone else who's on board as well, men, women, transgender, whatever you want to throw in, So, well, let's just get started here. And I'm leaving a space over my right shoulder for the one day that I am able to put together a professional video and actually have graphics while I'm talking and show some images while I'm talking in the background. That will be a monumental day, but I'm just leaving some space in case it does happen. I'm sitting here in my meditation room, our private or sort of sacred space that I just finished putting together. Maybe sometime somebody can come out and join us. We have a sacred circle, a meditation group here forming in the Pittsburgh, eastern Pittsburgh suburbs, and I'm very excited about it. We have a nice small group of people that just want to meditate. That's it. No talking politics, no religion, no social strife. And so I'm in those headquarters right now. Let's start with number 7 here, what I came up with, this exhaustive list. I put for number 7, starting at the top, and this is really of no importance in order, but getting back to reading books. Getting back to reading books. I think number 1, we recalibrate our cognitive processes. We help out our brain to slow down a little bit. And we take time away from scrolling. Of course, reading is great for a great substitute for scrolling. And I think really that's what I mean in actuality, is that getting back to reading a book on a regular basis and holding that thing in your hand, following the story, following the information. There's something to be said that area of the brain that reads and processes while it reads is a very important part of the brain that needs to be active. That might be the part of the brain that actually saves us from being usurped by the AI robots that are waiting on the horizon, I'd say. You never know. But absolutely, when we're reading and we're processing and we're applying what we read, which is even better, then we have created a wholesome and a holistic aspect to our intaking of information, instead of just one tidbit and one bite at a time that we get from scrolling or the news. And of course, reading, we can dive into something that we take great interest in. And so we get that depth that we don't get from scrolling. I have 3 recommendations for books. So I really did my homework for this show. And these are some books I read the last couple of years. One of them is by Don Miguel Ruiz, who some of you might know from the 4 Agreements, the Toltec Wisdom. This, if you haven't read the 4 Agreements, of course, that's crucial. It's just a life-changing guide. I used to use this with a lot of my young men that I taught over the years. And a lot of them didn't really have a formal religion that they followed. They were sort of lost. Even the religion that they were reared in didn't serve as any guide for them that was useful. So this Don Miguel Ruiz writes the Four Agreements, and it's a great place to start as far as building character, for yourself. But this 5 Levels of Attachment is the book I want to promote by Ruiz. All of this is based on ancient Toltec knowledge, and the Toltecs were the first indigenous peoples living in Mexico and the valley of the Rio Grande and the Yucatan. And these folks were tremendously important, very mysterious, and they actually disappeared mysteriously, there's a lot to be said for that, and there's a lot of speculation as to why that happened. But they were very wise people in a deeply entrenched shamanist culture. And so the Don Miguel Ruiz takes the Mayan and Aztec remnants of that tradition and the elders, and he writes these sort of novels and manuals, if you will. This one, the 5 Levels of Attachment, I'll just go through them very quickly. I think they're interesting. One is, the first one is the authentic self, which is no attachment. That's no attachment at all. That's the authentic self. Okay? The next level is preference, which is a light attachment to life. And we just mean attachment to life, attachment to people, as if that's all there is. That's what we mean by attachment. And then the third level is identity. That is defined by beliefs. When you have beliefs in something. Beliefs are attachments, right? Although we espouse believing in this, believing in that, a belief is ultimately an attachment, okay, which is something you might want to consider not carrying around, because attachments can be heavy. They feed the ego, and they feed the ego. So after identity, we have internalization. Internalization is when beliefs become core to your self-worth, right? That means you value yourself based on what you believe. And though this seems like, oh, what's wrong with that? When we examine this on deeper levels of self-awareness, these are great attachments that become very heavy, and you almost have to cling to them to maintain your balanced state of mind, right? And so the final level of attachment is the fanaticism, and that is where we are extreme and unchangeable. We're unchangeable in our beliefs. No matter what somebody shows us or explains to us, no matter what we encounter, we cling to that same belief that we always had about something. Sometimes we look at everything else as a test of our belief, and a test sometimes can turn into a trap, right? And that is that we're unable to yield an open mind. We're unable to expand and learn about something different. How many times have I had conversations with folks who were trapped in that space and weren't really sure about diving into meditation or yoga or movement or anything because of the beliefs that they attached to, right? So something to consider. I'm not saying that there's a right or wrong there, but the 5 levels of attachment really allow us space. Ruiz paints a landscape for us to explore and become ourselves, which is a broad scope of existence, the self. The 5 levels of attachment. The second book I'd like to bring up has to do with diet and nutrition, since I really don't talk about those on the other 7. And that is a book by Jack Schwartz from the early 70s. I don't have the exact year. It's a classic, very low-key. I'm using the low-key for this generation because they love their low-key stuff. It's very, very subtly bohemian type of back to the land themed, at that time in the early 70s. But Jack Schwartz writes a book called It's not what you eat, but what eats you. Has anyone heard of that book anyway, by the way, out there? Dr. Ali or anybody else on the line? If you have, just chime in. If not, that's fine. But this is, I had gotten this last year or maybe 2 years ago, and I read the whole thing immediately, cover to cover. It was one of those ones that just grab you. And I even took notes and highlighted it. Tremendous one. Tremendous work by Jack Schwartz. He's not I shouldn't say not even, but he's not a doctor. He was just a researcher. And he dives into the emotional aspect of eating. And one of the things, there are a few takeaways from the book, but one of them was really how monumentally, crucially important it is to be in the right state of mind while you are eating. I would say more so than what you're eating. I mean, you could be eating feathers, the way this Jack explained this, Mr. Schwartz explained this, and you'd be fine if you thoroughly were relaxed and enjoying and savoring and eating those feathers properly. All right. Of course, I'm exaggerating, but the point is that it's not what you eat, but what eats you. That is, what are you really thinking about? What are you kind of grinding away on while you're eating? Okay, in the mind. What's going on in your mind while you're eating? Is it survival? Is it just, I need this because it tastes good and I'm just consuming mindlessly? Or is it gratitude? Is it awareness? Are you eating slowly? Are you chewing your food? Or are you eating because of anxiety? Are you eating because of fear or anger or obligation or cultural construct because you need to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner? All these things are the root of eating. Dr. Ali, anything to say about this?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Absolutely. Loud and clear.
Okay. What I've noticed is that people find a way to use food to make themselves feel good if there is a situation that they don't like and really pushes them in a direction that they don't like. So they use the food to make them feel good rather than addressing the situation and the circumstances. So I see that a lot, and I think a lot of it has to do with health challenges, especially levels of obesity, diabetes, some other things. So yes, I definitely, I read the book a while back, and I definitely agree with that point.
Well, thanks for chiming in, letting us know. Your background and support means a lot, as we all know. And this I wish I had the book with me. I think I'm actually going to take a whole show and go into that book because that's how much depth. There's studies. It's not like just Mr. Schwartz is rambling on about how angry people eat pretzels. He goes into depth with actual studies and legitimate scientific evidence that shows how this is actually the case. And of course, we really espouse on this show, we meaning me and myself and I, and anyone who joins me, a couple of my loyal followers, we espouse the emotional roots, the energetic roots of disease and chronic illness. So Mr. Schwartz really aligns with that in his work. So highly recommend that one. It's worth I don't know what the price is on Amazon, but if it's still there, get that one. It will change everything. You won't look at vitamin C, vitamin D, all this stuff the same. You won't look at that burger or that steak or that salad. This just changes the whole paradigm and invites just a different way of exploring your diet and nutrition for you, which is really based on how you feel while you eat and why you are eating. Everything. Okay. for purposes of better things right now, we're going to keep it moving on to the third book. Remember, my first or number 7 on the list here is Getting Back to Reading Books. Now, my third book is called On the Unit. Some of you might remember that one. That was written by none other than yours truly, me, and that was a book about using mindfulness in the Philadelphia Juvenile Detention Center, Philadelphia Juvenile Justice Service Center, where I worked for about 5 years during COVID and whatnot, and into the early 2020s. And that was just sort of my experience with working mainly with young men, but I had a couple of female units as well, where I saw this as sort of a wartime educational attempt. This was in the middle of some very bad gun violence in Philadelphia, which I think since then has subsided quite a great deal, but I'm not exactly sure. But from what I heard, that gun violence has decreased in Philadelphia. There's still a lot of work to do, obviously, but this was on the unit, talking and working with young traumatized teenagers who were exploring how to survive, how to take care of themselves on some of the most basic levels, emotional, physical levels, and I was working with them with some meditation and mindfulness and breath work, and trying to promote subtly when I could and show them ways that they could gain self-awareness and ways that they could regulate and manage their emotions, ways that were, of course, peaceful and productive for them, And so it's kind of a sociological, psychological, and spiritual look at that experience. If you ever want to pick up my book, it's on Amazon. It's called On the Unit. Okay? I had to throw mine in there, of course. I also would advise, especially men, but poetry is really just a lost cause in many ways. I mean, we're so utilitarian right now in our state of being in this era and time where everything is done for a logical reason. But reading poetry, for example, has almost gone by the wayside as a pastime or a hobby. But it's wonderful to slow life down and to give us perspective and to take a look at some poetry. Find your favorite time period or your favorite poet, or do some exploration and see what you find there. All of it, of course, I would substitute for scrolling and scrolling time, which we have a statistic that came in here at between the ages of 16 and 24. This study was done in 2024. The average young man between those ages scrolled 7 to 8 hours a day. So that's not exactly utilizing the internet for whatever reason. This is scrolling alone. Scrolling alone 7 to 8 hours a day. Men ages 16 to 24. Keep in mind, these young men have everything at their fingertips, and whether they're looking for a new car that they can't afford, or a woman that they're lusting for that they don't know, or anything else, a bet that they want to make, all of it includes those 7 hours. So that's where we are right now, folks. I think we could all agree that there's some major issues that we're dealing with, and psychological consequences, right? One of them is FOMO. We all know what FOMO is. Out. A major psychological condition for our young people today that cannot be ignored. We can dote upon and put on the pedestal our young people today for whatever reason we'd like, but so many of them, an overwhelming number of them, I know because I work with them, I still work with them, are mentally imbalanced tremendously and lost and depressed and anxious. And a lot of it is due to the scrolling, which, like I'm saying, is getting up to about 7 to 9 hours for the average teenager, who is found in, MIT had a study on FOMO, which is the fear of missing out, fear of missing something, when you're not online, when you're not looking at social media. And we can combat that condition by reading, getting back to books, getting back to learning, diving into a topic and thoroughly learning about it. All right, number 6, here we go. 7 low-key habits for 2026. Number 6 is drink herbal tea every day. Drink herbal tea every day. Okay. Everyone has their magic herb. I believe that, and I'm not much for believing things, but I've seen that everyone has an herb or a combination of 1 or 2, maybe 3 herbs that align with their constitution and really fill in their gaps, so to speak, and give them and balance out their constitutional tendencies, deficiencies, and excesses. And that herb is sometimes a mystery. It takes 40 years to find it, so for some of us. But the sooner you find it, the better. A tea that just makes you feel good, it doesn't matter. Something neutral like chamomile or tulsi is great to start with. Not going to hurt you. It'll certainly help you on many levels. But having an herbal tea, it does more than just clean out your pipes. It sort of resets the microbiome in many ways. It nullifies and neutralizes the effects of caffeine, cleans the blood, cleans the bowels, cleans the colon, right? Oftentimes, depending on what we're drinking, cleans the liver and opens up those valves. So drinking an herbal tea is crucial, whether you can in the morning or in the evening. 90% of us like to have our cup of coffee or something in the morning, or maybe a green tea. Don't forget, green tea is caffeinated. Black tea is caffeinated. Black tea is the incremental caffeinated tea, to where the caffeine is activated over time, whereas coffee is a short amount. Coffee is kind of that window of maybe 2 hours where you're, feeling the effects of it, but black tea is over time. But I'm talking about strictly herbal tea here, non-caffeinated herbal tea. Some wonderful ones for the winter time off the top of my head are peppermint, ginger, just kind of warming herbs, if you will, especially for us who are Vatic type out there, or a little bit known to be a little cold, during the winter. Excellent to drink some peppermint tea. You can even put a little, drink some tulsi or some chamomile and put a little cayenne in it. Nothing. You can even drink a little moringa. Moringa is excellent for vitamins and minerals, and put a little cayenne, a little ginger in it. All right. By the way, if you really want to learn and maybe find and explore and find your magical herbal elixir, or your herb that aligns with your constitution and everything about you best, let me know. I can help you do that. I found mine. I know what I need the most. Especially, I have one in the morning and I have one in the evening, and the benefits of drinking your tea, the tea that you need in your season, based on who you are, based on your hue, based on your elemental aspects, is really something that can change your life. It's an energy changer, and it's worth exploring. So let me know if you're interested in that. There's a way that we can find it. Number 5 on the list: replace a sport obsession with a hobby. Ooh, I'm going to take some heat for that one with the guys. I'm used to it, don't worry. But yeah, the sport obsession, I'll say it, plain as day. I've been around. I grew up with sports, my share of sports, plenty of sports since I was a little boy. That's the way we were. There's a football, there's a boxing glove, here's a baseball glove. Whatever it was, sports was a way to sort of enculturate us, socialize us. It had its function. It was great. Sports is a game, but it's not a hobby. All right, and betting on it, watching it, following a team is not a hobby. It's not. right? Because you're not doing anything. You're not creating anything. You're not assembling or organizing anything. We're obsessed with sports. A lot of the men, of course. I mean, that we don't need to go much further than listening to the two average men talk on the street or in the gym or wherever. They're talking about games. They're talking about sports. And I would venture to say that these days, sports really exists on three levels. And the top level is business. The middle level is entertainment. And then the bottom level is an actual game, right? So those are the three levels of sports. Now, the character and the motivation and the strength building and all that is part of the individual experience who's playing it, obviously. But that's what it is more than anything, folks. If you disagree, let me know. But it is a business, as we see, more than ever. Then it's a source of entertainment, and then it's a game, right? So what is a hobby? A hobby is something where you can explore your ability to create. We are creators, whether it's masonry or painting or even themed photography. You're using your intuitive, creative abilities, using your hands to produce something new. If we're not creating, not living in many ways, right? Especially for some of us who have that tendency, maybe as an Aquarius, but all of us have this aspect of us that creates and that thrives from creating something. Even if it's creating something online, like a group or a network, like this organization, Grown Folks Talking, right? Whatever it is that we're creating, we're allowing growth, okay? We're allowing growth. If we're just following something, we're not innovating, we're not building, we're not expanding the universe at all, right? We're just following. And that's what sports has become, to me. Be happy to have that discussion with somebody down the road. Number 4 on the list, I have replaced movie night with documentary night. I'm sure after this list you can all see why I'm single. But replacing movie, single in America, American women cannot understand me, because I'm so radical in this way, and I'm perfectly fine with it, believe me. Replace movie night with documentary night. Big one. Same thing along the lines of sports, I would say. Movie night, documentaries, and I thought of this one while I was watching the documentary the other night. And I'm not sitting around watching documentaries every night, but I try to go in that direction simply because I learned something. I learned something of fact and truth that has been explored and verified at that level, right? Whereas movies are created by who knows who anymore. The forces in Hollywood, that's a long story, but movies and the images and sights and sounds of those movies are so designed and contrived to manipulate anymore, right? Movies in a way are almost like advertisements for a culture and industry. I'm just being very general, of course. There's a lot of different great movies out there, and I love movies, and historically, there are so many good ones. But more and more, I would say that going into documentaries, there's so much that you can learn, so much that you can begin to take interest in. One documentary can really open up a whole frame of mind and a whole aspect of ourselves that we weren't aware of, right? So whether it's about a historical event or whether it's about a phenomena that's happening now, it might be difficult to watch because it's a painful truth. I get all that, but there's documentaries just almost about everything. That said, I watched one, typically wouldn't watch it, but my father wanted to watch the first part of this American Revolution documentary by Ken Burns last week. And I said, oh, here we go, the Minutemen and the British and the bup. Well, it turns out that the documentary was truly fascinating. It really was. And I stepped out of the political, historical context for, on a number of occasions and just listen to what people were writing about the time period and those who were witnessing and living at that time period. And it was just fascinating on so many levels and so applicable to right now. So applicable to right now. I couldn't even, the parallels of people who felt that they were oppressed, felt that they were being restricted and constrained and unfairly taxed and unfairly manipulated. They were very robust and sort of independent, sovereign thinking and community-oriented people. We're talking about armies that formed on the basis of defending their own family and their own local town, right? That was the basis for the militias that sprouted up to start the American Revolution. And it was really, truly amazing. And the ironies that I saw is that, boy, there might be something like that returns, in a way. I sure hope so. And a lot to say about that one. But, yeah, so that was just an example. You never know what documentary can really, really dig down and touch you in a way that's inspiring. Number 3 on the list, going down here, this is under conscious movement and exercise, but I have moving consciously, moving in a martial manner or a conscious movement that ensures your balance, your mental clarity, your preparedness, talking about the American Revolution. But our ability as men, whether we're 75 or we're 35, our ability to be prepared for any sort of physical encounter, whether it's running. Obviously, you're not going to break into a full sprint if you're 78 years old. No one expects you to. But being the best at that moment that you need to be your best in can be really reinforced through conscious movement. And I say martial movement because of my background in Capoeira, Angola. Martial movement is really ideal in the sense that you know how to move and act in self-defense if needed, right, if necessary. No one believes that you're going to be Bruce Lee or you have to be somebody like that, but the ability sort of to be prepared and aware of your surroundings, let's say, is part of martial arts and part of martial movement. Moving in ways that are beneficial, that are mindful, whether you're picking up a pillow and twisting and putting it on your bed, whether you're painting your baseboards, the things that you learn in martial movement are crucial to keeping your stature, your posture, your balance as you get older. So you learn how to move your body so that you're not straining yourself, so that you're not creating rigidity, right? You're not creating osteo conditions and things that could possibly go on with your bones and your skeletal structure. Martial movement, polarity movement, Tai Chi, Capoeira Angola, yoga, to name a few, Tai Chi, Qigong, Qigong, and anything along the lines of the Eastern martial arts. These are great, more than great. They're necessary, especially for today, and having almost a warrior mindset, if need be, or at least a mindset of awareness, right? So it's a great time, if you haven't, to get into some martial movement along with exercise. Martial movement is great. It's all-encompassing itself. So if you can just do that, it's fine. But at least get back to exercise. I see a lot of guys that are just lifting weights, and then they'll run on the treadmill. While you're creating some cardiovascular adjustments and some robustness and what's the word I'm looking for besides cardiovascular health. Anyway, while you're creating some of that resilience in the arteries and good blood flow and strong heart mechanisms, you're also creating patterns that are hard to break in your movements, right? And you're creating rigidity, therefore, in your body. And so lifting weights and then jumping on the treadmill are all mechanical, robotic movements. Our bodies, our shoulders, our knees, our muscles, our tendons are not shaped like machines. We're not linear. We're not gears, right? We're not geared in our function. We're elementally sound. So we have to move in that way, okay? And so our exercises should reflect that to a certain degree. Besides just running straight ahead, when we want to take heavier breaths, or we want to have an uptake in our cardio, we don't just run forward all the time. All right. This has a lot to do. This has a great influence on how we think. If we're running forward all the time in our exercise, how are we thinking? Are we thinking dynamically? Are we thinking multidimensionally? If all we do is run when we exercise or lift, right? So the psychological effect is clear. So exercises can be of many, but martial movement, I would say, is the best. Getting a regular massage, by the way, I should probably interject that one. If you can afford it, if you can access it, a regular massage takes your lifespan 20 years. Everyone from Bob Hope to, I can't remember some of the other names, people that promoted massage through the years, and the studies have shown 20 years can be the difference in your life if you get a regular massage. Okay, so do yourself a favor and at least go for a deep tissue or a Swedish once in a while. Go for an hour, even a half hour, and open up those channels, open up those meridians so that the energy can flow, and so that the emotional body, the energy body doesn't get stuck. All right, which often occurs from lifting weights as an older man, especially. Number 2, I have sing to yourself, or sing to whoever wants to listen if you're lucky. But singing out loud or humming, wonderful habit to get into. I remember my grandfather singing. You know, he would sing to himself in kind of operatic songs, and sometimes he'd do like a Bobby Darin or Tony Bennett or something, but Nat King Cole. But he would sing, in the shower. Or you just see him like cleaning something, polishing his car up. He would sing, and I realized that I haven't been around a man who sings since then. Since I was a boy, there were not too many that sung, and he was. I would characterize him as exemplary, really, in his health and self-care. And he wasn't really a selfish person. He just knew how to take care of himself and knew how to, I think, express himself. But singing out loud was something that he did. And on a scientific level, humming and singing, humming especially, creates resonance in the body. And resonance in the body creates vitality, right? Period. And so when you're singing and you're humming, you're not only expressing everything that is in your emotional body, but you are resonating, right? You're creating, in other words, you're creating those waves to allow things to move upon those waves, to allow stagnant emotions, stagnant thoughts to move. Thoughts maybe that were just sort of glossed upon can now be put into action, right? Seeds of thought can create ideas, and those thoughts that are lingering, that are unwanted, perhaps negative thoughts, can then be flushed out and ironed out, if you would, in the static, right? So singing out loud, humming, whether it's just in the shower a little bit, but hum to yourself. Maybe you have to go back to that song, that New Edition song from 1986. But whatever it is, there's plenty of music out there. And I'd venture to say on my show here that if you don't have anything to sing or anything to hum, maybe you aren't listening to enough music, right? Maybe you have to get back to just listening to music again, and whatever it is that makes you feel good. obviously, if you're listening to a lot of the music today, there's not much to hum. No, I shouldn't say that. There are some good songs I hear once in a while. But, we're talking about music here. We're not talking about rhyme schemes that go on about things that have no meaning, or shouting or screaming. We're talking about singing. We're talking about harmony, right? And so that's those are the patterns of the universe, the musical patterns of the universe, the resonance that creates color, right? And then manifests into physical beauty in nature. That's the power of song. Gemstones are frozen music, right? So that's the power of song. If you sing, you become a gemstone. Number one, and of course, those of you who know me know I'm going to say, more than anything, the number one habit that you could pick up if you haven't done so for yourself, guys, to thrive and survive in 2026 will be to meditate, or to create a breathing practice for yourself where you're breathing with awareness, with consciousness, and you're applying a science to your breath, a method, preferably one that suits you and aligns with your needs. But any meditative practice is something that is highly desirable. That is a chance for you to sit and be still. This meditation is not so much the hobby or the thing that you do while you're cleaning, or, I think a lot of people apply the word meditation to this stuff, but they're really not meditating while they do those things, from what I've, been exposed to. Now, true meditation is stillness and silence. Okay, that's true meditation. When one can enter a state of samadhi, that means they are experiencing more than the six senses, right? When that ability to experience goes beyond the 3D. Obviously, most of us are not going to touch on those areas too much, but just a nice breathing practice where you're able to explore stillness and silence in your conscious breath, right? So important these days, and so beneficial for the workings of the brain and just your whole system, every system, all the 9 major systems of the body. Okay, starting with the nervous system, the most subtle, and in my view, the most important, if there is one. The regulating of these systems and the collaborating between them that occurs through meditation is unspeakable. Meditation is the original medicine, and it has within it various aspects that can address the various systems of the body in different ways. So the science of meditation is really expansive. It's not just one thing. Okay, when we look at sattvic breathing, we look at now the meditative state. You could argue that is one thing, one state of complete silence and stillness and needlessness. Right? There's a needlessness. The mind is shut off. The mind is the thing that always spouts off needs. We need this. You need that. You're going to need this. You got to be ready for that. So get this. Once the mind is able to sort of chatter its way into non-existence, then the needs become few. That's the state of meditation. That's the practice of meditation, when all that one needs is the breath. The breath, of course, being separate from the mind, but the breath being the bridge between the brain and the body. Okay? So, of course, I've been into meditation and practicing and teaching and leading meditations for a long time. Hopefully many more to come, but I'm probably have 30 years in, 35 years in. And if you'd like to learn more, we have a meditation online group. I have some local groups here, and I also do consultations. I have a weekend warrior class That's more sattvic breathing and conscious movement. If you'd like to hop on that in the morning, that starts at 6:45 Eastern on Saturdays and Sundays. Let me know if you're interested in any of that. But the meditation practice that I carry forth on a daily basis has and will continue to not only save my life, but structure my life and inform my life, right? So I can honestly say that it has created who I am today. And I need a lot more work. Of course, we all do, but meditation is the venue and the avenue by which that work can get done. I believe it. I've seen it. I can testify there. I'm going to add in a bonus for you on top of number 7. I'm going to say a final one for men in 2026 is to join a men's group. Find and join a local men's group if there is one. If there isn't one at all, begin one, start one. Men need men to talk to in a structured and purposeful way, I would say, rather than just locker room chat, which often turns into just garbage because I've heard enough of it. Men need a structured environment to speak to each other within, to express themselves with purpose, with intention, and with also freedom to say what they need to say. And it's a wonderful thing. I've experienced men's group, especially about 2 years ago in North Carolina when I joined Spearhead. I'm still technically a member of Spearhead, but haven't talked to those guys in a while. But it was just tremendous during Hurricane Helene. The men were able to get together and just help each other through that time. Along the lines of economic, emotional, every level of a man's life, he can relate to another man in a structured men's group. It's very necessary, I'd say, for our health, especially these days. We don't have a lot that could replace a good, solid men's group. Certainly, sports is not enough. It's not doing the job. Okay, I would say. So, Spearhead, by the way, is in Asheville, is in Western North Carolina, and also in South Florida. They have a chapter, but usually a local. If you live near even a small city, they'll probably have a conscious men's group. Obviously, if you're looking for a certain type of Christian oriented or something like that, that's up to you to find. But they are out there. If you're interested in Spearhead, I can tell you more about that if you want to get in touch in one of those areas. Okay, so that's my list, and I hope you guys take that one and take it to the bank in 2026. That is number 7, getting back to reading books. Number 6, drinking herbal tea. Number 5, replacing a sport obsession with a hobby. Number 6, documentary night. Number 3, martial movement. Number 2, sing to yourself or hum. And number 1, a meditative breathing practice. Also as a bonus, since it is 26, which adds up to 8, number 8, we even said finally here, is to join a men's group. Okay, join a men's group. I hope you enjoyed the show today. My viewings are also on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe and like the videos. And I'll be bringing, as soon as I get the rest of this space, I'll show everybody real quick, but I'm almost done here. This is our meditation space. Have to do the fireplace. And when I'm done doing this room here, I'll be able to put together some videos and set up my microphone and also start talking more about some other more informative and pertinent, detail-oriented topics, chronic, etc. So thanks for joining, everybody. Many blessings. And I'll try, if anyone wants to chime in, I'm going to stop the recording now, but